Let's go to other news now. Former Public Protector Thuli Madonsela is embarking on an 18-kilometer walk in Stellenbosch. This is to raise funds for Action4Inclusion. That's an initiative dedicated to clearing historical debt. The walk will include interval stops at some historical sites in that area to reflect on the painful past of the country. Madonsela is also preparing for the Pilgrimage of Hope, a 300-kilometer route from Stellenbosch to Cape Agulhas in October, aiming to raise more funds to assist disadvantaged students. SABC News reporter Atule Joka is there for us now. Atule, a very good morning to you. Thanks indeed for your time. So tell us more about the significance of these interval stops at these historical sites during this walk.
Yeah, well, Griselda, it's certainly to reflect on the past of South Africa. So they've been going to different historical sites. They started in Stellenbosch. They went over to some of the student residents that accommodate the students around there. And they were certainly just essentially reflecting on the past of how people in that area were moved under the Group Areas Act, a law which was meant to segregate people and discriminate them against along racial lines. So they are saying those areas used to stay people of color, colored people, but the people there were moved to different places, and those places now are housing students and are some of the administrative campuses of the university. So they're saying the university did play a role in the apartheid regime, but now it's also having those restitution programs in it. So we do know, Griselda, that student debt or historical debt seems to be quite an issue, a crisis in South Africa. We've seen a number of students protesting against NFSAS, saying the funds there are limited to accommodate most of the students. So what Prof. Thuli Madonsela here is doing is to work with some of her partners, some of the business partners, some of communities, some of the people who are willing to donate money into this fund to try and raise funds for the students who are affected by historical debts, who cannot pay their debts. Some of them cannot register, some of them cannot complete their studies. We understand that millions and millions of people continue to deregister and get out of the system as a result of not having enough funds to pay for that particular university fees. I will try and call in the Prof. Griselda to come and speak to us. I'm just worried that the sun will work against us here. Prof, we're alive now on SABC. If we may please speak to you. Can we move to this side? I'm just worried about the sun because it might affect us. Prof, just talk to us about today's work, the significance of it.
We are here as part of the Action4Inclusion Pilgrimage of Hope, where partly it's to build bridges of hope and friendship, but more importantly, crowdfunding to end student debt as a barrier to the continuation of university studies. As you know, a lot of students are forced to leave university, or when they leave university they don't get their degrees or their transcripts and they can't get work. Action4Inclusion is a solution to that.
Under this initiative, how do you raise funds and how do people contribute and how do you distribute that funding and how many students are benefiting?
Right. Let me start by saying the main way of helping us is join us. As you can see, we have a marvelous group of all ages, shades, and income categories. So walk with us and get your friends to raise the money for you to walk. And the second thing is just, if you can't walk with us, pay whatever you can pay. We say every rand counts, every note counts, whether it's a rand, a dollar, a euro, a yen, a pula, whatever it is. Please go to our website and look for Action4Inclusion or Bridge the Gap. Any of those. That's a way of helping. This third way of helping us is spread the word. And you've got to spread it as far as possible. And of course, it's a Stellenbosch University initiative started by the law faculty and chair in social justice, working with the SRC. I've got my colleague here, Star, who's part of the the group that has been really working at the core of this, and student ambassadors. But it's really the work of a village, because we say it takes a village to raise a child. It doesn't take a good government to raise a child. Of course, government must be good. Government must play its part, but all of us must play our part.
How much are you gunning to raise this time around?
By the 26th of October, we're hoping to raise 3 million rand. But by the end of the year, we're hoping to raise 10 million. So if people can just help us, we're walking 2 days now, so start throwing in whatever you can throw. In Zulu, we talk about his vivane. So throw whatever you can throw. Between now and tomorrow, which is 2 days, we're walking to Franschhoek, and then we'll complete the rest of the journey and walk up to Cape Agulhas by the 26th. And by then, please donate, spread the word, and join us, and make sure that at least by the 26th we reach the 3 million rand.
You are talking about different people of different colors joining in this work. You also visited some historical sites here to reflect on the historical past. Talk to us about the significance of that part of this work.
Well, the pilgrimage of hope just generally is a walk through Stellenbosch and via Penal and other historical sites up to Cape Agulhas. So apart from it being a healing journey, personally, it's also a historical healing journey. It's a historical healing journey in that people get to know about our past. And we got to see what Stellenbosch University is doing, having adopted a restitution statement and having some artwork of the preamble to make sure that our students are reminded of who are we trying to become, identity shifting. But this walk also reminds us of who we were and how did we hurt each other. We went to Lukov Primary, where one of our students got to tell this group about how, as the colored community and Asian community, they were robbed and their school assets and houses taken away, and then they were moved somewhere else. And of course, when they were moved, they were only given their homes, new homes, less quality, but without the assets that they lost. And the messaging throughout this healing journey is to recognize the past, but not to condemn the people in the room, but just to recognize and then say, what do we do about it? That's why at Lukov we get given a stone that symbolizes the pain of the past that we have to carry. And we also get given a speckbloom, which we must plant as a symbol of hope and as a symbol of building anew, having left the burden of shame, the burden of pain behind us, and building together this better society that we signed up to do when we adopted the Constitution. That's what the Constitutional Court said in Grootboom.
Talking about that burden shame of the historical past, Prof, the issue of historical debt seems to be systematic. According to some research, some universities which were historically black still battle with these historical debts. Some of them amount to billions as compared to other like white, previously white institutions. How do we find a model that will accommodate all the students to benefit in studies?
Well, it really boils down to how we interpret Section 29, the right to education. The rest of Africa invested in education. If you look at Botswana, why it's a stable society, was once you have passed your matric, you didn't have to worry about fees. And in our country, we've done better by changing NSFAS into a bursary scheme instead of a loan scheme, but we're not covering everyone. And our Action4Inclusion is taking care of the missing middle. So what needs to change is government policy itself needs to change and see how can we invest better? We could even look at Lotto money and see whether some of it could go into reinvesting in funding education. But secondly, as I said, it takes a village to raise a child. It's about walking the talk as civil society and playing our part. I want to also indicate that although the majority of the students that we fund are historically disadvantaged, of the 100 students that we've funded, from a debt of maybe as little as 15,000 rand, which is a piece of cake to somebody, to 360,000 for others, they are multicolored, because some of them have been victims of COVID-19 regulations, and some, of course, it's historical disadvantage. And therefore, anybody who needs help gets helped under Action4Inclusion. If you still have a place at the university and the only reason you're being kicked out is historical debt.
One gentleman I spoke to, who's also was as a participant in your work, said we also need to find other ways, like invite corporate sector to invest, and also to maybe change our educational system, our model, maybe invest more on and making sure that people get skills instead of just obtaining degrees. What's your view on that? It's been discussed a lot in the country.
Absolutely. Our SRC and STAR there has been insisting that we need to have some kind of student enterprise, and I think at Harvard, they've got the Harvard Co-op, for example. So yes, the SRC has been talking about how about we invest some of the money into some kind of student co-op so that it can generate money. So we're thinking about that. But the whole idea of business coming in is definitely part of the deal, because then maybe business could give us an endowment which could generate further money as we go through. What we need to do, though, collectively, is to push back against the paradigm that says people who are in student debt are people who refuse to pay. People are judging people without walking into their shoes, and we've walked into the shoes of these students. If they wished to, if they had the money, they would pay. But some of them, for years, actually they complete their studies and they can't now get their degree or get their transcript. As one who spoke during my birthday on the 28th of September last year, got finished and couldn't work because she didn't have the degree. When she got into this program, within weeks of getting into the program and us paying 90,000 to release her from student debt, she said within weeks, less than a month, she got a job, which was one person out of poverty and a family being taken out of the cycle of poverty.
We've delayed you so long. Let us let you continue with your pilgrimage of work home. Thank you so much for your time. Well, there's Prof. Thuli Madonsela and her group just embarking on that work once again, talking to us about the benefits that these students will benefit from, and also how these historical debts are continuing to disadvantage students. I do have Ian Hendricks, who's from this area, who was reflecting on the history of this area. Talk to us about Ida's Valley and the importance of it.
So thank you for the platform. Ida's Valley is a community that plays a huge role in the historical story of Stellenbosch, because Simon van der Stel founded Stellenbosch, but also Ida's Valley was founded by Simon van der Stel. That's why you have the Simonsburg here. But the community of Ida's Valley came into existence after the Groups Area Act and after the forceful removal of the people of the Vlakte in the 1960s. So what happened in the Vlakte is all our colored people of color, they stayed in the center of town, and then through the Groups Area Act, students were actually the ones removing our people and threw them here. What happened is with the placement is there was unintended consequences. So the immediate consequences was that they were removed from this space. They were moved from, they lost all their assets, all their property. But the unintended consequences is the generations that came after that lost out on opportunities that comes with the center of town. Think about it. If we had to stay in the center of town, we would have been part of the business. We would have been part of all the educational opportunities that come. And that is the unintended consequences that we need to speak about now, because not many of these kids in Ida's Valley have an opportunity to study at the university. So there needs to be looked at the restitution plan, the implementation of the plan. It's just a statement. We need to work to ways how it's going to be implemented, and that's through the schools, through research. We're not asking as a community of Idris Valley for money from the University of Stellenbosch. What we ask is that they make human capital available. Let them make the students available to do research. How to manage a space like this? How can a space like this contribute to sustainability and the resilience of this community? Teenage pregnancy. That's research that can be done by the university. How can you curb teenage pregnancy? So more can be done. And that's why we're here. We're here to walk the walk, but talk the talk as well.
Okay. So, but at the present moment, you are not benefiting on that restitution program. The community that was dispossessed, the generations that came after, are not having recourse in the restitution programs that are in place at the moment. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I'm saying that our community is not benefiting from the restitution statement at the moment. There is a social impact office where they do social impact outreach platforms and programs, but they need to look at how to implement it through the school system, through the education system, because the goal should be to restitute the generation that come afterwards that is facing the unintended consequences, so that they can get access to the university. That should be the goal. So the only way they can do that is they infiltrate the schools, right? And through proper research. Unemployment is a huge issue in Idris Valley. A lot of kids drop out of school at grade 10. What we need to do is we need to have a school of skills where we turn artisans, where we turn people that can do construction work, where we electrician work, plumbing work. The universities are right here. They have the research of how to implement these things. That is the type of interventions that we need as in the community of Idris Valley. And that is proper restitution.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your time.
Ian Hendricks, a resident here in Idris Valley, just talking about the historical past of this particular area, saying the population here were moved under the Group Areas Act in the 1960s. That was racial discriminatory laws of the apartheid regime, saying, of course, the restitution programs that are in place at the moment are not benefiting these communities, as people here continue to be engulfed in social ills such as teenage pregnancy, alcoholism, drug abuse, and gun violence as well. He is calling for that restitution and a sort of a resolution around those elements, saying, of course, the University of Stellenbosch, which also greatly benefited under that regime, needs to play a key role as we continue on this work with Prof. Thuli Madonsela to raise funds for those students who are disadvantaged. Griselda.
Atule, getting a good workout there for a good cause. Thank you very much indeed. We appreciate your time on the program.